we are at war. We are at war, and one of the greatest heroes, all the people are heroic who continue to provide care both in and outside the hospital. Many of us have been threatened with loss of staff privileges because of our views, and our next speaker, Dr. Gessling, went through that same experience in St. Louis as a family doctor and as chief of staff at her hospital, and was advised that she needed to leave the hospital because of the views that she's going to share with us for a few minutes this morning. Come on up here, Dr. Gessling. Let's finish up with child vaccines. Thank you so much.
Good morning, guys. I'm honored to be here, and it was an honor for Dr. Littell to have me join, but it was cruel and unusual punishment to have me follow Dr. McCullough. So I will do my best to give you information that is beneficial and easy to digest and use it as education for yourself. I had a little bit of excitement this morning. Dr. Littell called me and said, we're having some issues with your PowerPoint and we can't open it up, it's blank. And I thought, well, I'll just go on my computer and grab what I have and resend it. And amazingly, every single PowerPoint presentation was deleted from my computer, every saved presentation. So then I thought, well, then I'll go to my sent messages, and all of my sent messages were deleted. So I'm not going to say what happened, but there are some assumptions. And I can imagine that the things that we talk about are not well received by members of this, of the governmental agencies, and that's part of what I'm going to talk about today. So the title of my presentation is, Who Are the Protectors? For so long, as citizens of this country, we have relied on the government agencies, relied on the pharmaceutical companies to do their job, relied on the researchers to do solid research, unbiased research, not having any agenda as part of that research. And so I don't think at this point we may be able to trust those agencies. So I'm going to give you a little history, a little civics lesson. It's going to be kind of fun, a little bit of a break from what we've been doing. But I do want to back up because I wanted to tell you I am a family medicine physician. I have practiced, I actually live in Columbia, Missouri, not St. Louis, Columbia, Missouri, and I have had 2 busy practices in Moberly and Columbia, and I was asked to step down as chief of staff in August because of my voiced concerns about the vaccine. Amazing, amazing that as a physician, you would be asked to step down from your position because of concerns about safety of a product. And how derogatory is it that we would be called anti-vax when we've never been anti-vax? I have 3 amazing, beautiful children, and I follow the vaccine schedule. Part of my PowerPoint was to show you those amazing children that I'm fighting for, and I'm fighting for your children as a mom, as a physician, and as part of this wonderful group, we're fighting hard for you. In 1986, Congress passed the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. And you probably have heard about it, but to understand where and how we got here, knowing this act is helpful. And I think that there's probably been, some conversations surrounding this and little peripheral discussions, kind of knowing what that is. But I'm going to give you the 3 provisions of that act. So the first provision is, as of the date of the act that it was passed, I had it in my PowerPoint, I think it was in October of '88, that Congress must ensure that vaccines are safer than what they were before the act. And the act came about because of the fact that in the 70s and 80s, pharmaceutical companies were receiving so many allegations and had to fight off so many lawsuits that they went to Congress and said, we cannot survive unless you pass an act that says we have no liability. We're having to pay out too much money for injuries in these lawsuits, and we must have some protection from liability. And they basically strong-armed the Congress and said, if you don't do this, we just will get out of the vaccine industry because we're not making any money. So the first provision is to make vaccines safer. Simple as that. So as of right now, I would say they're not following that. Number 2 is to develop a task force to ensure vaccine safety and frequent discussion about vaccine safety. And then number 3 is for the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services to report to Congress every 2 years the status of vaccine safety. I'm going to let you guys guess how many times that has happened. Exactly. I missed that. Okay, so the Health and Human Services Department is an umbrella for organizations that you know, FDA, CDC, NIH. So, can we trust them? So, after that act, there was questions that could there still be recourse through state and federal courts? Congressman Waxman, who helped write that act, said yes, there could still be tort action through state and federal courts. So that leads to, and I'll hurry, that leads to the Supreme Court case in 2011, Brucewitz versus Wyeth. And the opinion of the court and the statement, the text that was at issue that came to the Supreme Court, I'll read it really quick. No vaccine manufacturer shall be liable in a civil action, and this comes from the act that was passed in the 1986 Act that was presented to the Supreme Court. No vaccine manufacturer shall be liable in a civil action for damages arising from a vaccine-related injury or death associated with the administration of a vaccine after October 1, 1988, if the injury or death resulted from side effects that were unavoidable, even though the vaccine was properly prepared and was accompanied by proper directions and warnings. Well, we saw that that doesn't exist with this current vaccine. So, the opinion of the court was that that statement does not include design defect. And it included design defect, even though it's not specifically listed. And they assumed that every pharmaceutical company would be doing the best design, but that there could have been other better designs that they just couldn't do, or maybe it reduced the efficacy. So design defect was included, and Justice Scalia wrote the majority opinion, and he said that basically that those that were vaccine injured could not present to state and federal courts and present their complaint. Sotomayor, she dissented and said that this basically removes all protections. So then we have the PrEP Act of 2020, which essentially says the same thing and allows for full liability for the pharmaceutical companies, the vaccine manufacturers that are providing the countermeasures. I would like to ask you at this point, I'm going to give you one more comment. So within that 2011 Supreme Court case, you guys should read it because it's incredibly interesting what the Supreme Court judges were thinking. Justice Scalia actually said, as part of that text that they were debating, saying unavoidable, he actually said those products that would not be considered to fall within that category of unavoidable injury are emergency products. So where are we at? Who can we trust? I'm going to ask if you can trust the governmental agencies at this point. Can we trust the pharmaceutical companies? Can we trust the media? Yep. In 1997, FDA allowed for direct-to-consumer advertising. And now, what has that caused? That has caused there to be no ability for the media to report fairly because they're controlled by those pharmaceutical companies. Can we trust the publications? They're biased, poor study design, agenda-driven, blocking studies that do not support that agenda. Can we trust the physicians? You can trust us. That's why we're here. We are growing and there are more of us, but many are scared. I think who is responsible at this point, other than those that are speaking the truth, other than those physicians that are speaking the truth, are the parents. You are responsible for your children. We will do our best to continue to speak the truth, but it's up to you guys. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Heather. It is the moms. One of the physicians who couldn't be with us today, and by the way, as I'm speaking, we are going to have the Q&A now, so hopefully we have time for questions. This is where the microphone is. If you want to work your way up here, we'll have short questions. And I'd like to have somebody from our helper group move some of these chairs. We need 4 or 5 chairs brought forward here, a little bit more behind me, and then I'll ask the morning speakers to come up here.